Are you looking for a way to scale your short-term rental business and buy more properties? Well, co-hosting might be the right fit for you. Welcome to the Co-Host Coach podcast with Joe Roney. This episode of the Co-Host Coach is brought to you by Savvy STR Agents. If you're looking to buy a short-term rental, then contact the STR Savvy Agent team at savvy.realty.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Co-Host Coach. I'm Joe Roney, and I am honored to have Mr. Jon Farber here with me today, who has been an STR guru for many years and has worn a ton of hats and has so much knowledge. So super excited to have you on here today.
I'm excited to be here. I had this marked. I was looking forward to it. This is the first podcast I've done in probably 6 months, and no better person to do it with than yours truly.
Nope, that's awesome, man. I'm really glad you're here. And it's funny when if you Google your name in the podcast, I bet you've done hundreds of podcasts over the last 5 years. You have your own podcast. You've been on just about everybody else's podcast, but I've listened to so many of them, and every single time you drop nuggets of new knowledge.
I'm excited to dig into. I feel like it's good that I haven't done one in a while because I have a lot of new thoughts and things that I've been experimenting with and playing around with that I don't think I've ever talked about anywhere. So I think there could be some, decent things to talk about today. But probably a couple hundred. I think on my first podcast that I did myself, I had like 330 episodes. It was a daily show, which was kind of insane.
Wow.
And then the more recent one now, it's weekly, so it feels like I'm barely even doing anything compared to that first one, but it's still something.
Yeah. Nope, it's awesome. So for those that don't know you, I guess give us a quick rundown of how you got into the short-term rental space, how many you own and or manage, and kind of what you got going on right now.
Yep, I will try to keep it short and sweet and we can dig in. But 2015, I moved from New York to Raleigh, North Carolina. I started working in sales at a software company, sort of a funny intro into that. I just cold called the chairman of the company. It's a 12,000 person company, got his contact information from online, and he gave me a job. He's like, "Kid, you got some balls to call me." So I think he respected it. And I went down there. I was working, doing the corporate ladder thing. I had a friend that was more into personal development than I was at the time, and he turned me on to Bigger Pockets, taught me about the low money down real estate strategies, house hacking, and just trying to get to financial freedom at a young age. So I was just going crazy, reading books, door knocking, going to RIAs, and I just started with house hacking, which is buy something, put low money down, low interest rate, rent out the rooms to friends or coworkers, and you could live for free or make some money. So I did that, I want to say 4 years, and 4 times in 4 years in Raleigh. And then I left, and it was sort of leading up to 2020. I happened to get into STRs in 2019 before COVID, which was just super lucky that it was right before that like COVID boom, lower interest rates, and got my first one in 19. And then I got a couple more during COVID. That's when it became enough that I hit like small boy financial freedom, level one, I guess you could say that.
Yeah.
I thought I was doing something, but it wasn't anything. But I left my job and I was just doing full-time real estate and, content and all that. And I guess that's taken me up to today, other businesses. I always just try to solve the problems that I have. And if it turns into a product or content for other people, awesome. And what that's turned into as of late is bookkeeping. The last year and a half, just growing a real estate bookkeeping company, super boring business. I get even bored thinking and talking about it. I mean, I get a little excited, but it's not sexy, but it's something everyone needs. And there's so many bad bookkeepers out there that it's like, if we could just do decent, we look like heroes. So anyway, I've always been into systems and virtual assistants and automation, and that's always sort of been threaded into my real estate portfolio with VAs and automations and tools, and then up to the bookkeeping stuff now of just making sure we're efficient, using tools and trying to have an edge in that sense. And then AI, of course. AI, I don't know if there's another human being that uses AI as much as I do on a daily basis. I'm sure there is, but I probably use AI at least 70 times a day.
Wow.
I was thinking about it. So anyway, yeah, that's what I do. Oh, the other thing, I move around a lot. Like, I guess digital nomad-ish. It's such a cliche word. But anyway, I'm a minimalist. I don't own a lot of stuff. I like making money and nice things and golf and all that. So for me, I work half the year, usually in a warm place. The last 4 years been Medellin, Colombia, and this year Scottsdale, but usually somewhere warm. And then in the summer, 6 months, I take off and I play about 40 golf tournaments. And the business has to run and grow without me. Otherwise, I failed. So yeah, that's everything, I guess, in a little blurb.
Wow. That's pretty awesome. I mean, when, everybody talks about getting into this business because they want financial freedom, they want, whatever it is, but you at a very young age, were able to achieve that and have just been crushing it ever since. I mean, to be able to say, that you're taking basically 6 months off a year to be able to just go play golf. I mean, that's pretty cool.
You know, the first level, like I said, that small boy financial freedom, I was 27, and I was literally living like a peasant. Like I did hit it, but it was funny just because it was like I was super below my means. I still live a very, like, again, minimalistic lifestyle, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think for anyone listening, no matter where you're at, like I ebb and flow with it, but every time I have a North Star goal, it always gets me fired up and always gets me in the right direction. And when I was in my early 20s, that North Star goal was financial freedom by 30. And it's a doable thing. It's something that takes luck also, but it's like that was my North Star. Now I have a different North Star, and it was to sort of live a life that I like to have a little bit of sort of mini retirements built in and time on and time off and kind of do it that way. But I guess I also say that to say I am not special. I'm not the smartest person. I have an awful memory. I use a lot of systems to sort of make up for it and help me and people, but like I'm not special. I guess I say that because I think anyone listening to this can achieve financial freedom, can sort of design their life how they want. It just takes some intentionality and execution and yeah, some trade-offs, but just focus. And it's totally possible for anybody.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it's awesome. So how many total properties do you own and currently, and are you managing others as well?
I own 8 at the moment, STRs. I actually just sold 8. They weren't STRs; those were actually a long-term building. So down to 8 at the moment. And I don't manage for anyone else. Just have my own that I own, and then the bookkeeping business, and keeps me pretty busy. And then just
Yeah.
trying to get better at golf. But yeah, that's my life and business work.
Yeah. Yeah. What's the current handicap in golf?
Right now it's a +3.
Yeah.
So, but I look at it like a job. I literally look at it like analytically the same way I look at business. Like I do all my stats, even when I go play a casual round, and then I put it into a stat tool, put that into Chat GPT, and then I come up with practice plans of what do I need to do to get better in the areas that I'm bad, or who do I need to work with on lessons. So I don't know, maybe I'm a freak, probably, but it helps. Just I don't know. I like to get better at certain things, but that's it. But I want to get to like a +5 or 6. That's where the top AMs win tournaments at usually.
Yeah, yeah, that's +3 is still pretty impressive. So I mean, I've never even hit par, in an 18 before. So goals someday. So I think my best round is like an 84 on a par 71. So that's like my best ever. So
We'll
long.
get you dialed in, bro. We got to link up somewhere and we'll play or hit a range. All right.
Yeah, I have to come down to Scottsdale during this awful winter because we have snow on the ground here in St. Louis, and you're sitting where it's nice and pretty. So
We'll do it.
yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
either at a conference or we'll make an excuse to do some business out in one of our each other's towns.
Yeah. Yeah. So obviously one of the reasons I definitely wanted to have you on today, because we have a lot of people that are either new into the co-hosting space, jumping into the co-hosting space, and some of them own and manage their own short-term rentals, is to really talk about bookkeeping, because we are coming down to end of year. We're going to be having owner statements and year-end statements and, bookkeeping and reconciling and making sure that everything is all aligned. And that's obviously something that your team has done really well and actually helped me with earlier this year when I had you guys come on just to kind of help clean up some of our stuff. We do some of our own bookkeeping because my wife's done it forever, but there's just some of those things that are really detailed in there that not everybody knows. So tell me about how you got into bookkeeping and what that role looks like now.
I got into it solving my own problem, a problem that I think a lot of investors have when they might have 1, 2, 5 units, is that they're not rolling in cash flow, balling out, but they need this side of their business to be taken care of. And the solutions out there are tricky in the sense you don't come across too many people who love their bookkeeper or love their accountant. In fact, most people complain about them or sort of hate them and just sort of get through and deal with them. But I just had that same experience in 2021. I was working with an accountant slash bookkeeper who I didn't realize how awful they were, and it's a shame. They've gotten even more popular, but it was just such a bad experience. But it led me to overpay my taxes by 24,000 and change. Um, so that sucked. And I didn't really know about it until like 2 years ago. And when I found out about it, I was interested in trying to get that money back. And it was a really difficult process, tax refilings, looking at all my receipts from that time years ago and refiling. And then finally did get the money back, which was awesome. And that was really cool. But it really, at the time, I was doing some VA staffing and consulting with people. If they needed like an Airbnb manager or an executive assistant, we would help them find that person. And I just heard more and more people complaining about bookkeeping. And I was dealing with the same problem myself. I thought I sort of solved it, but it was clearly not. And yeah, I found a bookkeeper I really liked. And I just started with a couple people. I said, "Hey, do you want to maybe share this person? It's someone that I think I don't have enough work for. She's great. I don't want to lose her, but if we share her, or you let me sort of pay her out as a full-time person, I can kind of parse out her time." And I didn't have a bookkeeping background. I learned a lot from this person. They were sort of like a tutor to me in YouTube and AI and talking to people. I pay something I do a lot is I pay for a lot of consulting on things that I need to get smarter on. I've done coaching, but for me, I like to just sort of get one-on-one with someone hands-on and learn something. So that also helped me learn the bookkeeping that I wanted and needed for myself, but then also what the product was going to be.
Yeah.
And then from there, started doing it. We had a lot of trial and error, had a lot of good and bad and learnings, but I'd say in general, the thing that maybe I don't know, I really took a lot of pride in was iterating quickly. If we ever got feedback from someone, we would make changes. If there was a way that I thought we could improve something, we would implement it or add. And yeah, in the first 6 months, went from 0 to 70 clients without doing any paid ads, without doing any email marketing. It was literally just posting on Facebook, word of mouth, and kind of an Alex Hormozy type concept of make the product so good that it's your best advertising you could do.
Yeah.
If people ask for a bookkeeper in a Facebook group and your clients like working with you, they're going to recommend you. It's like Apple doesn't need affiliates, but everyone loves talking about their iPhone.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, we need to make the product awesome. And I'm still obsessive about it, but now I do more on marketing. But anyway, that's kind of how I got into it. And the thing that I always think about bookkeeping, and then we could talk in direction, whatever direction you want, is it's not something that's taught in school. It's not something that business owners get a 101 on when they decide, hey, I want to be an entrepreneur. And that's really tough because if you don't set it up a certain way or the right way, it can have horrible implications as far as penalties or audits or, like headaches and time. So, I'm sympathetic to the small business owners that are in the space that I'm in and was in even a couple of years ago of like, how can we serve people with clean, simple books, but good communication and keep it affordable? And I think that's just like our core product and sort of what we like to do for people and, keep in mind. So that's kind of how it all happened. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a crucial thing. And I'll tell a horror story of how having the wrong CPA and bookkeeper when we started our preschool business 18 years ago cost us probably $100K over the first 6 years that we were in business because we hired this, CPA and she was referred to us and was told that she was great. And she set us up. She's like, oh, you need to set it up as an LLC and blah, 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 and this and that. She didn't even understand that we should have been an S Corp from the get-go. So for the first many years of owning our first business, and we're in our mid to early 20s, when we bought our preschool, So we didn't know better, so we're like, this is the expert. She's telling us what to do. And we operated as a regular LLC partnership for multiple years before we realized, oh, if we made this an S corporation, we could save ourselves tens of thousands of dollars every single year in taxes. And we ended up firing her after, I think it was 3 years. And then the fourth year was kind of a transition. We finally got on pace, but just from square one, not having the right person cost us a lot of money.
It's really tough for a couple of reasons. First off, most accountants or bookkeepers, they're solopreneurs. They're kind of like contractors that work on your house. And everyone has the same complaint with contractors. They're terrible at showing up on time. They're non-responsive. I don't know when they're going to be here. And it's the problem, it's a solopreneur dilemma. The more business they get, the worse the service gets. It's also why people sort of hoard the good contractors, cleaners, bookkeepers, accountants, because in some cases they get worse with the amount of clients they get.
Yeah.
Our model is totally opposite. Since I'm not doing any of the bookkeeping myself, with every new client we get, I'm always thinking, how do we pour that back into hiring more bookkeepers and making our systems better? And I think that's part of what, again, makes our product something that people recommend to other people. But if you work with, someone that is in that situation, it can be tough. But also, I think the thing that makes it hard when people are in situations like you were in and I was too is it's hard. It's very painful to change. There's a lot of friction. There's a lot of relearning. The interviewing process sucks of finding new accountants or bookkeepers, or, because it's like everyone says the same thing. Everyone says they're great.
Yes.
And then changing all your stuff over to them, it sucks. It's a pain in the neck. And then if it's not good, to do it again, it's super disruptive. And it's like, how many times am I going to have to do this? So, I think that's why a lot of people get stuck in situations where it's like, they get in and then they don't know if they're in a good or bad situation. But we could talk about some simple things like S Corp stuff or deductions that are simple and easy to just make sure you do, whether you have or don't have a bookkeeper, to just make sure that you kind of have some basics. But yeah, and I guess just one note on that, and I'm not a salesy or pitchy person at all, but because of what I just said, I find change difficult also, and everyone is going to say how great they are. So for us, we offer options now that it's like either people don't pay until they like the service, or they can get a free month trying it. If they like it, then they stay and pay. Or if they don't like it, we'll give their money back plus $500, for the cost and the energy that people have to change, because it's like, it has to be good once you're in it. But it's really tough if you're in a situation that you're stuck in, or, you have to do a lot of unwinding. I sympathize a lot for those people.
Yep, and I'm sure you've seen, the goods and the really bads on how some people do their bookkeeping. I know there's a few people in my real estate team that are using your services that, basically had all their receipts in a coffee box, basically, when they started and said, all right, fix this for me. So, and that's what you guys do. I mean, that's like the initial thing is fixing what's really broken first, and then obviously once you get it fixed, then being able to, keep it going where it's supposed to be.
Totally. You know, I guess let me ask you this. Would you say, yeah, just because I want to make sure that whatever I say gives value to the audience, what would you say is like your typical listener? Are they a newbie? Do they have a couple properties? Where are they at?
Yep, I'd say the majority of them are entry into co-hosting in the last 1 to 2 years. Some have been in the business a little bit longer. Some of them own their own properties, anywhere from 1 to 5 probably, and some, may only just do co-hosting. So, but yeah, it's definitely, I think the majority of our listeners are definitely entry level and new into this type of business or into the real estate investing in general.
Amazing. So I'll start on the more simple side and build, and you tell me. But what I would say in general is there's some good best practices or sort of rules of thumb, whether you work with a bookkeeper or not, that I think are important just to know where the business is at. The most common thing we hear from people when I do calls or talk to people is, I don't even know if my business is making or losing money. Most common by far, because some people have multiple businesses or properties or LLCs, and it's like, I literally don't know if I'm making or losing money. And a lot of times and I was in the same place. I didn't know either. And I was scared to look. So it made me wait even longer to look at it because I'm like, well, I'm not going to look. It might be bad. You know, I want to
Yes.
know what's really like under this house. So a couple of things for people that own a good best practice. And I'll preface this isn't financial advice. You do whatever you want to do. Talk to your CPA, talk to your uncle, your grandma, whatever. I'll just say what I've seen and done. And sometimes it works good for other people too. What I like for myself and seeing in some other people that are growing or starting is to have one bank account per property and have one debit card per property and maybe one credit card per property. That's, not, it's a longer conversation, but basically what that does with owners and co-hosts even is if you don't have a ton, if you, let's say you have under 20 properties, there's a lot of benefits in being able to just isolate transactions to know, okay, my principal, interest, mortgage, insurance is going to run through one account and I don't have to categorize it after the fact. It's only isolated to that. Same with income and the same with just miscellaneous expenses, softwares, or if you have a lawn care person that comes to that property, you can isolate it. Because when it gets really ugly and sticky and annoying is when there's no trace of which property does this transaction line up to, and we have to go after the fact and try to figure that out, and it can be really annoying and time consuming. So it's, again, for beginners, you usually can't go wrong doing that, and that's what I did from the beginning, and I still have with my 8 units. It might seem a little daunting or frustrating to have a lot of accounts, but there's other bookkeeping systems that recommend 5 bank accounts per property or per business. I think that's excessive, but to have one, I think is okay. Um, what I like to do, just to answer that question and know, am I making or losing money every month? And I've shown this to the Savvy group, and I think you've been on the trainings, but I'll just verbalize it, is at the end of the month, what I like to do is in each property bank account, I keep a certain amount of money. So let's say in each property bank account, I leave $1,000. So what I do is at the last Thursday of every month, I take out anything above $1,000 from that account. And that's how I know before any bookkeeping, QuickBooks, anything fancy, I just know how much I made or lost relative to $1,000 in every bank account. If I'm at 900, that means I lost $100 in that property that month. If I'm at 3,000, it means I made two. So what I do is I start every month fresh by sweeping out the money from those accounts, and then at least I know where I'm at. Okay. And also, Joe, if you want to put it in the show notes, I'll give you any of our P&L templates or anything like that. If people need like a P&L, like a way to just, if you want to use a spreadsheet to track stuff, a real simple version of one, that's totally no problem.
Yeah.
But that's how I do it, just to know that stuff. And then, yeah, so a lot of people ask, do I need QuickBooks? Which is basically QuickBooks is just a software that, it's like a layer that sits on top of all your banks, credit cards, money coming and going. And then it just creates a feed, like a long list of all the transactions. And then what a bookkeeper or you would do, anyone listening to this, is you categorize the transactions to say what property or business it's for, and then what category the expense is. Was it cleaning supplies? Was it lawn service? Things like that.
Yep.
And then from there, you can generate reports. If someone says to me, "Hey, do I need QuickBooks?" If you're in the earlier phases, 1, 2 properties, maybe not. I like to think of it as like if you have a property that you're working on that does over 70,000 in revenue, I think it's worth having a separate bank account and then QuickBooks, just because that's a real business and there's real money coming and going. But also, there's a factor of, do you like doing it? Do you not like doing it? Do you know what you're doing and do you not know what you're doing? You might be capable, but your dollar per hour might not be worthwhile to do it every month. Or you might be in the beginning stages and it's like, hey, I'm going to learn this. I'm going to take 30 minutes a week. I'm going to just put this into my spreadsheet or my QuickBooks and categorize it. And that's it. So I'll pause there, but those are just, I would say, the starter kit that I like to think about and sort of what I wish I would have known when I was kind of getting going with that. But I'm sure I missed a bunch of things. So yeah, if there's any questions, feel free.
No, I think that's great. And I agree. I'm a huge proponent of QuickBooks. I've used it for 18 years from our first business to, I think I have QuickBooks subscriptions. Actually, I'm down to 4. Thank you to your team that actually helped me, categorize to be able to have, because you can actually have one QuickBooks subscription for all of your properties. That way you can, categorize it. And that's something that your team helped me do last year and helped me save, $100 a month in my QuickBooks subscription.
There we go. That's a quick little, nugget, I guess. A lot of times also people come to us and they say, hey, I got 4 properties, I have 4 QuickBooks. And it's like, again, there's no handbook for this. You might have heard it somewhere, So again, take what I say also and compare it to what you hear from other people and come up with the best decision. But like in QuickBooks, there's a feature, it's called classes. Again, I'm not like getting QuickBooks nerdy here. I don't want people to glaze over, but it's just a simple way to say each class is a property. So property 1, 2, 3, that means you'd have class 1, 2, 3. And by doing it that way, you can have transactions tied to each class and each property. So that's all that means. And yeah, you could have multiple in one QuickBooks account. It's typically no problem. Sometimes there's little reasons to not, but for most people that doesn't apply. But yeah, it's nice because QuickBooks is a useful tool. It's sort of a necessary evil. It could be a lot cooler and better, but they just have such a big market share that they don't even have to give a crap. But, hey, it's the gold standard. So yeah, but we don't need to pay them more than we have to. We could take that money and put it into new design at our property or whatever, hiring somebody. So little things like that, you want to try to plug leaks.
Yeah. And I will also preface, this is one thing. Your properties QuickBooks cannot be in your co-hosting business QuickBooks because they are 2 different businesses, and you likely are going to turn your co-hosting business into an S corporation at some point. And it is a for-profit business, so it is very hard. You can't really class those together. That's something that we learned when we were going through this process, or at least it's something that I don't think you should do. To combine those 2 into one QuickBooks account. They are separate. And then the other part is to do classes. You can't be in the QuickBooks entry level at $30 a month. You do have to be at, I think it's the QuickBooks Pro or whatever that next subscription level is to be able to do classes. So if you only have one property, you can do that basic subscription, for $35 a month. But when you get that second property, if you want to class it, you do need to upgrade to that QuickBooks Pro or whatever that next level is.
100%. That's a really good point. And yeah, some of this, it's like, I'll say this, guys. I don't know when this is being recorded, December 4th, 2025. Maybe people are going to listen to this in 20 years or maybe, not, but in a year or 2. But like right now, with a lot of this stuff, I hate to say it, I don't even know how this is going to come off. There's a lot of tools that didn't exist to learn some of this stuff now that there weren't. And I don't mean like YouTube and Google. I mean AI tools.
Yes.
Like, bookkeeping, I do wonder if it'll be replaced by AI at some point or, parts of it, possibly and probably. But the thing that I have kept in my life and I've outsourced a lot of or replaced with AI is like, some of the consultative stuff. Like, for example, and I'm not saying it replaces it, but it can give me a good foundation or framework. For even in my own business, I take all of my financials and I plug it into AI tools, ChatGPT, and I say, hey, based on this, what can I do to pay the least tax? And it might give me 20 recommendations. S Corp, change your residency to this, you're living in this part of the world, you could get this car, this Augusta rule, like your office supplies. I'm not saying it's going to be perfect and right, but for the most part, what I usually then is I take that stuff and I validate it with a professional who's going to be signing a tax return and rubber stamping it. But, I think a lot of these tools are interesting and cool for people to sort of, not be in the dark and not make these mistakes that we've both made and cost a ton of money. And it really is amazing, what is out there now and can give really tailored strategic advice about a business. Like I've made significant changes to even my own business structure and tax stuff and, just like how I think about money, just doing what I just said. So I definitely recommend it. Of course, again, professionals should be involved for filing and like, proofing some things, but you can get a lot more now than you could before, obviously.
Yeah, I agree. I actually just 2 days ago put into ChatGPT. I'm like, all right, here's a situation. I was hoping to get a property to get bonus depreciation this year. I didn't do it. What are some other things I can do, for tax benefits before this month to be able to help me pay less taxes? And ChatGPT gave me a list. My CPA is Ryan Bakey. I messaged him and he pretty much gave me the same list. Like, it was like, okay, they're both telling me to do X, Y, and Z. I'm going to go do those, right? I mean, but I got my first initial from that, and the AI tools definitely can really get you in the right direction.
Yeah, like, a lot of people ask me also, do I have accountant recommendations, or how do I think about like strategy when I'm working with an accountant? And I'm not saying this to make anyone happy or anyone annoyed, but what the way that I think about that now is the bookkeeping needs to be done. Because not just because, for two reasons. I like to look at it weekly and monthly so I can make decisions in my business to know, okay, should we turn this software on or off, or what are we doing at this property pricing wise it's working compared to not. And then also it makes having data that we can make strategic decisions on tax wise a lot easier. But what I use accountants for now is really just to file my taxes. And usually, and I tell clients this too, and I don't think accountants will like this, but maybe they will because they don't like doing bookkeeping either, is I tell every one of our clients, ask your accountant for a discount now that your books are clean. And almost always their accountant comes back and says, we can knock off 20 or 30%, because what most accountants do is they build in bookkeeping hours at the end of the year to people's accounts because they know they're going to have to do that anyway.
Yeah.
And, for me, all I want an accountant for is to give me a couple hours of strategy a year. Maybe we do 2 calls, one in Q2, one in Q3. Once we have some numbers for the year and say, hey, what are we doing? Anything we should do differently or change? Should I cost seg a property? I was thinking about selling this property, or, I have an IRA or whatever. And then they know that. And then they file the taxes. But usually now, like what I'm expecting is I'm paying less in accounting because my books are good. And I'm coming to them with the strategy and asking them, hey, what do you think about this?
Yep.
Instead of them having to qualify me and understand my situation for a long time and then, have to bill me for that time and tell me what to do. So, I think there's times and places for everything, but that's how I interact with an accountant now. And I think it is changing for a lot of people.
Yeah. Yep. No, I agree. And the consultations, I tell people ask me all the time, like, how much do you spend on doing the consultations so it works? And it's expensive, but if you don't have a CPA that does consultations and you just call your CPA and say, hey, I want to come in and sit down, and they're gonna be like, okay, it's $400 an hour, to come sit down and have a conversation with me. It's like, okay, but are they the expert? Are they the ones? And it's just been in the last 2 years that I went and did the bookkeeping, or the CPA that actually does strategic planning. And when you get to a certain level, you do need that. But I agree that the AI tools and just the information that's at our fingertips all the time, you don't necessarily have to have somebody that's giving you all that advice, but it is good to have that professional to have as your sounding board.
And one thing I'm glad you mentioned, anyone listening to this, like, I wish I would have this is a small thing. It would have just saved me a lot of stress and like angst over the years. Whoever you're working with, it doesn't matter, what people say they are, if they're referred or not. Find out exactly what you're paying for on the front end. Like, I can't stand surprises. I'm not a big surprise guy, good or bad. Okay. It's just not my deal. So the thing that I can't stand is when, let's say I've worked with an accountant, say, all right, your return is going to be $1,500. Fine. And they say, we might talk and get stuff established in that time, but that encompasses that. Okay, cool. And then we do a call in the middle of the year and I get a bill for $300. Oh man, I freak out, because it's like, and now I just actually finished doing rounds interviewing accountants for my own business, again, based on my simple needs. And I'm just super straightforward. I think sometimes people get shy, or they want to be professional and not like too direct with people. I just say to the accountants or whoever, I say, here's the deal. I don't like surprises. What is the cost going to be for the year as is? But then what if I need to talk to you once or twice? Are those going to be billed? Are those included? I don't care if it's, covered up front, and I'll just build it into the price, but I just want to know what I have.
Yeah.
But don't surprise me later. It's the same with lawyers too. You email a lawyer, they send you one email back. They send you a bill for $400. Like, come on, bro. Like,
Yeah.
just let's front end it. Let's talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I think people need to be very careful with that because sometimes people get shy or then they don't want to talk to their accountant or get the help they need because they're like, I'm going to get billed every call. So we don't want that situation. That should be figured out on the front end, and you can be very straightforward and direct to understand that to avoid, fees and knowing what you're going to get ahead of time.
I'm going to spin that really quickly to all the co-hosts out there. Your clients that you co-host for have the same opinion. They hate all the extra little fees and little things that you add on your invoices each month that you didn't talk about them up front that you were going to charge them for. And your 20% fee turns into 23, 25, 27 because you're nickel and diming them every single thing that you can. So just, it's the same thing, right? It's the same category, right? Be upfront, be honest, understand what you're getting into, and make sure you're on the same page, right? So,
Biggie. It's like I'm such a fan. I hate that I'm even saying some of this stuff. It's just funny, but like I'm such a fanboy of stuff that has really helped me. Like Alex Hormozi's stuff has been the best business content I've ever consumed, and it's how I've grown and scaled my businesses. I just think he does it right. He gives most of his stuff away for free, and there's so many things that can be learned in that. And part of that is that it's just like the customer experience and making sure that whether you're doing co-hosting, whether you're doing accounting, bookkeeping, it's like to make it so good people feel stupid saying no,
yep.
and make it that they want to refer you out. So yeah, little things like that. I think that's such a good point.
So if I have some listeners out there that are in need of some bookkeeping, what's the best way for them to say, "Hey, John, help me out"?
Yep. There's a couple ways. Like I do my best to still be very involved in that part of the business and answer questions. If you have a question and you message me on Facebook, I will answer it. If you email me, I'll give you guys my email, my phone number. Like I'm accessible. I that's another business wise thing. I find it frustrating when it's like you're trying to give someone your business and they're like not responding to you. Like it's the craziest thing ever to me. But anyway, Facebook, I have a Facebook group. It's the name might be changing, but I'll put in the links, but it's something going to be around bookkeeping, tactics for real estate investors, realtors, professionals. And then my Facebook is where I hang out a lot. Email, call, all good. And I'll give you a link also if anyone wants to book a call. Again, not a salesy, pushy type deal, but if you just have questions and you want to talk to anyone or just kind of do a strategy session or get an opinion on what you're doing, happy to do that. That's totally no problem.
Awesome. We're going to get all that and get it in the show notes. So no matter where you're listening or watching this, you'll be able to get that information in the show notes and it'll be down below. So definitely want to check that out. Any other last minute advice for our, aspiring co-hosts out there that are building these businesses?
I hate to sound like a broken record. I just can't right now. I can't emphasize and stress using AI enough. If it's for a tool like HostBuddy to automate your guest messaging, if it's for figuring out how to handle difficult situations with your hosts once they're a client or before they're a client, if it's figuring out how to take your business from where you're at now to where you want to be, tax stuff, things like this. I'm not saying it's the one size fits all for everything, but it is the greatest technology I've ever seen in my life that I've adopted and helped me make changes as quickly as I've wanted to make. I'm only 30, I'm 32. I've never seen anything like it. And it's like, I think also a lot of co-hosts and solopreneurs, it's hard. Like you're lonely, you don't have a co-partner to be able to riff ideas off with. And, you might have friends, and having someone like Joe be your mentor and, your coach, that is huge. Like he's way better than any AI will be, and not everyone will be, picked to be in his group or, will qualify, but like, I just, for so many facets, I think it's made my life and business, much simpler and easier and helped me so much that, again, everyone can use it. Oh, one other thing, actually, I will say, I'm obsessed right now with ChatGPT's agent feature. And the latest thing that I've been doing with it, I don't know if people know or don't know what that is. It's basically a feature where like like ChatGPT will take over your computer screen and do tasks. It will literally do things. So like this past week, every winter I make upgrades in my properties. I was like, okay, can you pull, I put this in the prompt, can you pull all the top performing 4-bedroom properties on Airbnb in this area that have hot tubs, saunas, and pools? Cool. So it literally, you see the mouse clicking around, you see it opening up different Airbnb tabs, scraping the data, putting it into a spreadsheet, and building it for you. And there's time savings, but it's just, there's so many possibilities there. It could do outreach. It could, so many things. So anyway, like that's just one use case that it already helped me. I was like, okay, now I have all my comps. And then what I can take with that data is say, hey, okay, who are the best ones? Here are mine. Compare mine to theirs. What are my highest ROI tasks that I can do that cost me the least money that will give me an advantage to compare with the top 5 comps? Cool. And it did, like, hey, it's not perfect, validate it, but it's really amazing what it could do, especially for solopreneurs and solo founders that don't have someone in the cockpit with them, and
Yeah.
you want a second opinion.
I agree. I agree. I mean, I don't use it 70 times a day like you, but I definitely do use it every single day. And it's as little as like, I need to create some social media content. Give me ideas this week on 5 reels that I can make, or, give me some, put in there, give me some ideas for some new headlines for my listings, or, it doesn't matter. Like, all of that. I mean, even my listings in general, I'm going through, and I don't use ChatGPT for that. I actually use Jasper because it's a little bit more focused on that, for my listing descriptions, and it's really descriptive, and it's really, tells a story, right? Depending on what it is you're wanting to do. So there's tons of different tools out there. Definitely don't hang your hat on one of them. We are actually implementing HostBuddy AI in a couple weeks. Finally, I've been talking about it for 2 months. We're getting our backend systems in place because that's step number 1, to be able to make sure we have all of the information in place, and then we're actually getting that implemented before the first of the year. So that's going to be the next step. But if you're in this business and you're not adapting with AI, you're going to be left behind. Period.
Hell yeah, that's awesome to hear. Just echo all that. That's it.
Yep. So, man, Jon, I appreciate you coming on today very much. I know this was a lot of information for some of the co-hosts out there, but bookkeeping it's not, like Jon said, it's not a pretty thing. It's not something that we all enjoy, but it's necessary. And your owners expect to have good statements, and your owners are expecting you to have clean books, and you need to have clean books for your CPA. Like, there's so many things that are involved in this, and this back end part is really, really important. So, Jon, thank you so much for joining me, guys. This is it for the co-host coach this week. Until next week, I'll see you then.